Dear Taurus, if your heart has been feeling a little unsettled lately, not from any clear anxiety, not because someone called your name, but simply from the sense that something significant is drawing near, then perhaps it's time to pause, settle down, and truly listen to this message. Because what you're sensing isn't a fantasy. It's a vibration, a sacred pulse that has already been sent out, and only your grounded soul is sensitive enough to receive it. I'm not here to frighten you. I'm here to whisper what you've always known, but have let drift quietly inward, waiting until you are still enough to finally hear it. You are not the only one who's felt this way, but you are one of the few who didn't ignore it, who didn't push away the hazy sounds within. Taurus doesn't need everything explained. Taurus doesn't need proof. Taurus needs to believe in what's calling them from the soul's edge. Something's about to happen, a message, a casual phrase, an unexpected encounter, and it will make you unable to sit still. Not because it's too dramatic, but because it touches the exact part of you you've kept hidden. It won't shake the world around you, but it will move everything within you. Like a bell your soul has been waiting far too long to hear again. You've felt something coming, haven't you? Something you couldn't name, something you couldn't quite explain, but you knew there was a light approaching, not to shine on your past, the one you quietly left behind, but to beam directly onto the present moment you stand in but haven't truly lived. And that trembling in your chest, it isn't fear, it's your spirit preparing for a doorway that's about to open. Taurus, this is that moment. Your soul is preparing to receive a turning point, not because you've been chasing it, but because it has been finding its way to you. Taurus, you've lived for too long in a state of quiet vigilance, always bracing, always wondering what might go wrong next. So much so that when something good comes near, you don't quite trust it. Your heart has learned to flinch at joy. Your mind has grown accustomed to rejecting miracles, not because you don't deserve them, but because you can't bear another disappointment. But now you're standing before something that does not need your belief to exist. It will still come, still knock at your door, a destined call, and you won't be able to ignore it. Because this time, your heart will beat in a rhythm you haven't felt before, a rhythm that demands you let go of every practical reason you've used to delay yourself. I know you've been disappointed many times. You thought, this is just another promise that'll disappear. You've told yourself, I won't hope, it's safer not to. But today, your soul is trembling, not out of fear, but because it's remembering an old vow you once made. That when the moment arrives, you will not turn away. That call, whether it comes from a person, a message, or just a persistent feeling, will not let you rest. And it's not meant to frighten you, it's meant to set you free. Free from the burdens you once believed you were destined to carry forever. Free from the entanglements you mistook for love. Free from the role you wrapped around yourself just to please everyone except your own soul. Not everything that makes your heart pound is a sign of panic. Sometimes it's the very first beat of a heart learning how to live truthfully again after all these years, after all those falls, after all those moments you told yourself, maybe I was born to endure this. This time, your heart doesn't beat to warn you, it beats to guide you. Taurus, ask yourself, what if this time it's not pain? What if this isn't another trial, but a release from always having to be strong? What if what confuses you isn't danger, but an opportunity you never even dared to imagine? You once told yourself, I no longer expect anything, but what's coming doesn't need your expectation. It only needs your openness. I know you've been strong for so long, but sometimes the only thing standing between you and the miracle is the belief that you're not worthy of it. Taurus, This is not the time to ask, "Do I deserve it?" It's the time to gently place your hand over your chest, feel that rhythm, and whisper, "This is my soul, and I will listen." Because behind that call, behind the vibration building inside you, is something that has never happened before, something that only souls deep enough, tender enough, true enough can receive. You're still here, which means your soul is still listening. And I know part of you has already begun to remember not memories of someone, but a memory of something you once felt but couldn't name. Taurus, you've dreamt of this before, not in your sleep, but in the clearest moments of your waking life. When you stare out the window for no reason, when you're standing in the middle of a room and feel like you're about to leave a place you no longer belong to, when you're doing routine tasks and suddenly feel the urge to leave it all behind without knowing why. That's not boredom, it's not impulse. It's a calling from the part of you that has already seen what's coming. The news will arrive, a word, a message, something so small, but it will confirm everything you've always known. And this time, you won't be able to deny it anymore. Maybe you once told yourself, "I overthink things." Maybe you stayed silent with the intuition you were too afraid to share. But the truth is, you've always known. You just weren't ready to say it out loud. So if what's about to happen startles you, confuses you, makes your heart race as if it were trying to run, pause. Don't run. It's not here to make you hide, it's here so you can stop, take a breath, and choose. Will I keep living by old reflexes, or will I walk into something new, even if I'm not ready? Taurus, not everyone can hear this invitation. The universe only sends it to souls who have matured in silence. And you, the one who's endured so much without complaint, are one of the few who have been chosen. How many times have you smiled to cover an intuition? How many times have you pretended to trust while deep inside you shattered piece by piece because you felt something was off? How many times has someone told you, "Don't overthink," only for things to happen exactly as you sensed? Taurus, you're not paranoid, you're being warned. And this time, the universe will not let you miss it. The message will come like a shock, but not a shock meant to overwhelm you. It's an awakening, like a bell ringing, telling you you've drifted too far from your true path. You won't be able to turn away. You won't be able to pretend nothing happened. You can no longer keep enduring just because it's familiar, because your soul is starting to long for home. I know you're tired of always having to guess what others feel, tired of constantly adjusting yourself just to keep the peace. But that peace is no longer real. You're living in a house with still air, yet beneath the ground everything is trembling. And soon you'll receive a sign that you simply cannot ignore. It will come right at the moment you think you've finally learned how to quietly carry on. And that's what will shake you, because the part of you that you tried to hide is still alive, still there, still waiting to be set free. You know, sometimes the news that stops your heart is the very thing that can wake you up from a dream that has gone on too long. A dream you've convinced yourself to accept, whispering, "This is enough." But your soul knows you weren't born just to get by. You were born to feel, to connect, to love, and to be loved, not in vague, blurry ways. Taurus, you've heard the calling before in the form of coincidences, in dreams that got interrupted, in those moments when your heart clenched in the middle of sudden, quiet stillness. But you brushed it off, telling yourself you were being too sensitive. You said, "Maybe I'm just imagining things." You learned to distrust your senses. You trained yourself to look away, to shut your ears, to forget, because you thought that's what it took to live in peace. But dear Taurus, what's coming this time won't let you ignore it anymore. It doesn't arrive with loud noise. It comes with a truth so undeniable you can't turn away. I invite you to close your eyes and listen. What within you is trembling as you think about that call? Which part of your heart is beating faster? Not from fear, but because it recognizes something familiar from another lifetime. Do you hear the faint knocking from the other side of the door you once closed, believing no one would ever knock again? This time, it's not you knocking. It's the light knocking for you. And it's not here to ask if you're ready. It's here to look you in the eyes and remind you you've been waiting for this your entire life. So if your heart feels strange right now, if you find yourself unable to sleep, if you're hearing a whisper from somewhere, it's almost time. Don't think you're losing your mind. You're waking up. Taurus. Taurus, if you've ever thought of yourself as just the one left standing after everything, then today, I want to take you a little further, beyond survival, beyond old pain, beyond the feeling of I made it through. Because the truth is, you didn't just survive. You were chosen to hold the gate open so that other souls could walk into the light. I know you didn't ask for this role. You didn't volunteer to be the first one to awaken. You only wanted a soft life, to be loved, to be understood, to rest. But your soul was sent into the darkest place, not to be swallowed, but to recognize who's lost and lead them home. Maybe you've never spoken about it. Maybe you don't call yourself a healer or a light or a guide. But Taurus, I see it clearly. You're the one people turn to when they no longer know where else to go. The reason you were awakened, it's not because you're weak. It's not even because you're special. It's because you're the only one who can walk through that night and still remember the way back. You've endured, not to be broken, but to find the souls who got stuck in the same darkness you once passed through. Not everyone is capable of loving as profoundly as you do. Not everyone knows how to hold space for someone unraveling. Not everyone has the patience to listen to a soul on the verge of collapse. But you have loved like that. You have listened like that. And you have hurt just like that. Taurus, remember this. The light you carry was never meant to illuminate the path for you alone. It may be the very flame that another soul far away is still able to see. It may be that someone is falling apart in a dark corner you once walked through, and the light you now hold is the only thing making them think, maybe I can survive this too. There's a quote I always carry in my heart. The survivor is not the strongest one, but the one who keeps their tenderness intact after the storm. Taurus, you're not merely the last one standing, you are the first one awake. And when someone awakens in the ruins, they don't just keep walking. They pause. They look around. They become the gatekeeper, not to guard who comes and goes, but to open the door at the right moment for someone who once was just like them. Do you remember? Was there a moment when you thought, I wish someone had told me this sooner? You wished someone had held your hand when you collapsed. You wished someone had looked you in the eye and said, you're not crazy, you're awakening. But when no one said that, you became that person yourself. You healed yourself. You came to understand who you are. You stepped out of a room with no visible exit. And now you are the very person someone else is silently waiting for. I don't say this to pressure you. No one is asking you to carry a burden. But if you've ever made it through something no one believed you could survive, then the light you radiate from that experience is a signal. It doesn't speak in words, it speaks in energy. And other souls, those trembling on the edge, will feel you. They won't understand why they feel safe around you. They won't be able to explain why just one look from you brings them to tears, but it's because they see themselves in you. and they see that someone made it out of the place where they still feel trapped. Taurus, if you've ever thought you were just here to survive the day, I'm here to tell you, you are the answer. You are the signal. You are the gatekeeper. And the universe, it will send you the souls that need awakening, not through logic, but through the frequency of your presence. So today, instead of asking, what should I do? Ask, can I use one of my old wounds to help someone heal? Today, you don't need to say anything. You just need to exist in your truest light. No striving, no proving, just presence. Like a quiet doorway that remains open for someone who is walking toward you. Taurus, not everyone lives long enough in silence to hear the sacred sound of a divine message. Not everyone has the patience to wait in hopelessness and still believe like you have. But you did. And because of that, what's coming next? It's not here to change you. It's here to remind you you have never been forgotten. I know you've sacrificed so much, not needing anyone to know, not needing anyone to acknowledge it. You've loved even while your own heart was running dry. You held someone's hand through their storms while no one noticed you were standing there, soaked and shivering alone. You once sat in a dark room, not because the sun had set, but because you were slowly losing faith that anyone still remembered you. You once whispered that question into the emptiness. Does anyone see me? Taurus, the call that's coming is the answer. Not an answer from another human being, but an answer from a higher realm, from the place where every tear you've cried was kept like a sacred seed, from the place where every quiet step you took was recorded, not by a camera, but by the heart of the universe. You no longer need anyone to validate your worth, because the call that's coming, no matter what form it takes, is destiny's confirmation that everything you've walked through was never in vain. No act of kindness has ever been wasted. No wound was without meaning. Every time you forgave without being asked. Every time you stayed because someone needed you. Every time you chose peace instead of retaliation. Each one of those moments has brought you here to this moment of recognition. This moment of being called not by people, but by a sacred force that has waited for just the right moment to whisper to you, you are enough, Taurus. If you've ever believed you didn't matter, listen closely to the bell that's about to ring. It won't sound like a church bell. It won't echo like a siren. It will come in the form of a passing glance, a strange breeze, a sentence that touches a wound still healing. It is the voice of destiny calling your name. You don't need to pretend to be strong anymore. You don't need to strain to be understood. You are about to hear something you've waited your entire life to hear without even realizing you were waiting. And when it comes, you won't need to prepare because you've been ready all along. I invite you now to take a deep breath, not to erase the pain, but to make space for what is coming. Because true healing does not arrive through logic. It arrives through the silent agreement between the soul and the universe. And you are now in the exact place, at the exact time, in the exact state to hear it. And now, let me ask you something. Share with me, what is the very first thing that just appeared in your heart? Because maybe that very thing is the answer to the call that's about to find you. It doesn't have to be long. It just has to be honest. Because here, honesty is the highest form of connection. Thank you, Taurus soul, for being here. The fact that you're still listening means your light is still alive, and that light is being seen by someone. May you hear the message the universe has kept for so long just for you. And when it comes, you will be ready without fear, without hesitation, because you will remember who you are.